Imagine this. You inherit an antique clock from a distant relative. It's stunning, ornate, and centuries old. But there's a catch. The moment you wind it, time stops for the living and awakens the dead. Sounds like a movie plot, right? Well, today we're diving into the chilling story of The Curse of the Old Clock. And, believe it or not, it has a lesson about how time itself can either be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. So, stay with me, but keep an eye on the clock. The story begins with Claire, a young woman in her late 20s, inheriting her late uncle's estate. Among the many items is an antique clock, intricately carved, with a golden pendulum and a faint inscription in Latin, Tempus est vitae magister, time is life's master. Claire, intrigued but cautious, places the clock in her living room. One evening, she notices the clock's pendulum isn't moving. She winds it up, expecting nothing more than a gentle tick-tock. Instead, silence fills the room. The air grows heavy. And then, a whisper. Soft at first, but growing louder. Claire feels her pulse quicken. "Who's there?" she calls out. But no answer comes, until she looks out her window. Shadows move where no shadows should be, and the clock strikes a chilling, echoing chime. By the way, have you ever had a moment where you felt like time literally stopped? Maybe waiting for your coffee to brew or your boss's email. But let me tell you, Claire's situation was no coffee break. The next morning, Claire confides in her best friend, Jake, who brushes it off as a coincidence. "You're stressed. It's probably your imagination," he says. But Claire can't shake the feeling of being watched. She notices the clock's hands haven't moved since she wound it. Not forward, not backward. And every night, the whispers grow louder. Jake, still skeptical, agrees to stay the night. They set up cameras around the house to catch any unusual activity. Midnight comes, and so does the first chime of the clock. The whispers turn into distinct voices. And then, silence. The footage shows something horrifying. Figures emerging from the shadows, circling the clock, and staring directly at the camera before vanishing. The next day, Claire and Jake research the clock's origins. It belonged to an 18th century watchmaker, Thomas Grayson, who allegedly cursed it after losing his family to debt. Legend says the clock traps the living in a moment of suspended time while summoning the spirits of those who died with unfinished business. Claire's heart sinks. She remembers the last thing her uncle said. "Don't wind the clock unless you're prepared to pay its price." But what's the price? And how do you escape a curse that manipulates time itself? Claire discovers the only way to break the curse is to let the clock strike its 13th chime, something it has never done before. But there's a catch. She must confront the spirits and acknowledge their unresolved pain. It's not just a matter of courage. It's about understanding that time, once lost, cannot be reclaimed. At the stroke of midnight, Claire faces the spirits. Each represents a life lost to poor choices, squandered time, and regrets that snowballed into tragedy. One by one, she offers them closure by reading their stories aloud, reminding them they are seen and remembered. As the 13th chime rings, the room erupts in light. The spirits vanish, and the clock begins to tick forward once more. So, moral of the story? Don't let your clocks hit 13. Kidding. But seriously, isn't it fascinating how the power of time can define not only stories, but also our lives? As Claire learns, time is the most valuable resource we have. Whether it's breaking curses or building a legacy, how you use your time shapes your future. Speaking of which, are you using your time wisely? And remember, in the story of your life, you're the one writing the chapters. Use your time wisely. See you there.